Hello and welcome to my video today. If you ever see a washer fluid low warning and you know that there's plenty of fluid, you most likely need to replace the washer fluid tank sensor. Due to the design, which happens to be an issue with VW and Audi cars that use this sensor, this will eventually happen to all Oceans. Today I'll show you how to replace a rusted out sensor. Let's get started. These are the items I purchased so that I can replace the sensor on the windshield washer tank. You're definitely going to need to at least buy a new sensor because these tend to rust at the tips and disintegrate, and that's what's causing the error to show up on the car. And so you're going to need to at least buy this portion and also this grommet. These go together, so if I do it like this, you can see this is what it's going to look like when it gets installed in the vehicle, like that. So these two parts definitely you're going to need to purchase. It is possible that the sensor and the connector that is attached to it is fully rusted out, where you need to replace the actual connector. I'm not sure what the condition of mine is yet, but I figured I might as well get the connector ahead of time just in case I need to replace it. So you're going to need to purchase this connector piece along with at least two of these that go inside of here, and they allow it to connect to these two right here. Male to female connectors. I had to add these two wires. I happen to have some extra wires around the garage, so I used those. And I crimped them to the connectors here. To make things a whole lot easier, ElectrifiedOcean.com has this whole kit pre-made for you. You don't need to buy all the separate pieces. And for what the cost is, I would recommend just getting that kit, because it's about the same price as buying all of these things separately. So you might as well just get it from one source and you're sure that you have everything to do this project. So I'm going to bring all these out to the car and I'm going to get started. Here are the things you're going to be needing to do this project. You're going to need a breaker bar with a 17mm socket. Inside of here is a torque wrench for when I put the bolts back on. I also have a 3-ton floor jack with a jack system. This one's by SafeJack, and it's super convenient to use because I can put my adapter on it and not have a problem with the jack point. We're also going to need a ratchet with an 8mm socket on the end. Also a trim removal tool. Some sort of bucket and or funnel to capture the fluid as it comes out of the tank. And of course, replacement washer fluid. These are two additional tools that I recommend having for this project. Needle nose or flathead pliers for removing the sensor from the tank, and also wire cutters. This is good for cutting off the connector. If you find that your connector is bad and you need to replace it, you're going to need to cut off the connector from 2 wires. And if you need to lengthen any of the copper wire inside, this will come in handy for that too. Another thing I recommend having is a heat gun. You're going to need this for the solder wire connectors that I show in the video. There are 2 of these wire connectors, and you're going to insert the wires from the connector and the wires from the car, and you're going to need to heat it up so it melts the ends so that they attach to the wires, and it melts the solder in the middle so the 2 copper wires are connected. And what we're going to be doing is going to put the floor jack over here on the front right lift point. Going to jack up the car high enough so that I can remove the wheel. Going to place the wheel aside, and I'll have access to this area here since what we're working on is in the front fender bumper area right here, and you need to remove the wheel to get good access to it. So I'll get started with that. Now we have the wheel well open to access. There are 3 8mm bolts here, here, and here that we have to remove with the ratchet wrench. Then there are 2 of the trim clips on the bottom. And then that should give us enough room to fold back the lining inside the wheel well so we can get inside. Make sure not to lose these little clips in here because these clips hold those bolts in place. You may also have to pull up one more trim clip up here. Now you can see the connectors that I waterproofed in previous videos. I have 2 that are inside this waterproof box, and I also have one over here that is wrapped in butyl tape. You could also use silicone tape, and a good thing to do after using butyl or silicone is wrapping the entire thing in a wire loom tape. I have that right here, so I'm going to actually be doing that to this one while I have this open. So as you can see here, I have a bucket that I put underneath the area here, and I just used some plastic grocery bags with some gaffer tape. You could use duct tape. And I just have it so that when I do open this up to remove the sensor, all the fluid is going to either hit the plastic and go down into the bucket or just go straight into the bucket. I don't have to worry about any of the wiring getting messed up with the fluid. So I do suggest using something like this, very inexpensive. And in a previous episode, I showed how to remove the fluid out of the top of the tank. So if you want to do it that way, you could do it that way. However, if you want to do it with this method, with the fluid coming out of the sensor, I'm showing this as an alternate. So here we go. I am going to remove the connector from the sensor and have a look at the connector. If there's any fluid in there, if it's rusted, if it's, you know, in any way bad enough that I need to replace it, I need to look at that now. So let me go do that. So I'm going to pull on the connector right here. And oh yes, here we go. That's what the connector looks like. I think it's going to be easier to replace this than try to clean this out. I am going to pull back on here so that I have access to the wires. There are 2 wires that I'm going to need to clip, and I am going to show you how to do the next step on replacing the connector. Now, if the connector was in good condition and you just need to replace the sensor here, you would pull out the sensor, let the tank drain out, and then put the new sensor in, and then connect it to the adapter right here, and you'd be all set. But in this situation, I'm going to be using both the new connector and the new sensor and replacing both at the same time. All right, so here are the 2 wires. I'm going to snip them off at the connector. Toss that. Now I'm going to clear the insulation off the end of both of these. So now we have the bare copper showing for both of the wires. The corresponding wires on here, it doesn't matter which one goes to which. And I'm going to use these solder connectors. You basically heat these up and it melts the ends, so it traps the wires, and then the center solder is going to be melted where the two wires meet. So basically I just insert it into the end right here. I make sure that the wire passes through the solder, and then I do the same thing for the other side. Make sure it passes through the soldered area for both of these. Then I'm going to take these two wires here and insert them. I may need to give this more wire length here so it fits in there. So I'm going to strip this back a little bit so that I can get more wire. I have enough of the wire here that is exposed. Now I can do the next step. It's suggested to use a heat gun to melt the solder. So that's what I have right here. So I'm going to let that warm up, and then I'm going to attach both sets of wires to the solder connectors. All right, so I have the two wires here with the solder connector in place. I put a little bit of black electrical tape here to keep them from moving, so that I have the wires in the center where the solder is going to be. So now I just need to line up the existing factory wires inside these two, get them in position, and then I'm going to heat them up. Since I'm going to need both my hands, I'm going to attach this to one of the lines right here just so that I can have a solid location here, and I can use my hands freely. Just temporary. Now that's a good idea. All right, so I'm going to insert this one here. Get it about halfway. Then I'm going to insert the other one and also get that one about halfway. All right, so this one I need to adjust a little bit. It's a little hard to do here because I am in 96-degree heat today. Not a lot of fun. So before I heat it up, I want to make sure that both the wires are overlapping in the center area. All right, so that is looking good. Now for the heat gun. We are done. So make sure that the solder in the center has been melted and the overlapping wires are now connected to it. The ends are also shrunken down from the heat so that the wire insulation is now embedded into the connector. So this should be a good connection right here. I'm going to let it cool down, and then once everything is good, I'll be testing the connection when I remove the existing sensor and put in the new sensor. All right, so for the next step, I took the wires and I put plastic in front of them, and I brought them way up to the top and secured them so that they're nowhere near the fluid. And now I'm going to take out the sensor, and this is going to be the messy part. And as you can see here, I have all this plastic ready, and I got my bucket right here to capture roughly a gallon of the washer fluid that's in that tank. So I am going to remove the sensor Oh, it's kind of tough to pull out. Whoa, there we go. So it's a good thing I had all of this plastic here. And here you can see the sensor is, one of the sides is totally rusted off and the other one's not looking too good either. So yeah, it's pretty well spent. Now, I haven't had any issues with my windshield wiper nozzles getting plugged up. Some people have had issues with the nozzles getting filled, most likely with rust from the sensor. So I recommend flushing out that line. You can do that with either a pressure hose onto the nozzles themselves and to get them cleared out. But in this video, I'm just going to be putting the sensor back in, and then I'm going to refill the tank. At this point, I'm going to finish up the wiring. I'm going to use some wire loom tape and wrap it all the way around the wire so it's protected and I don't have any issues with that. So I'm going to start at this end here, and I'm just going to loop it around. Going to push the wire back into the tubing. There we go. Give it a couple more turns around there. And then I'm going to cut it. Sorry about that. So this is what it looks like. All the wire is now smoothed out, and we can now insert this into the tank. I'm going to move this tube out of the way real quick so you can see. And you can see the grommet that I have around the sensor. And I'm just going to insert that so that it goes straight in. Actually, I need to remove the existing grommet. And we're going to put the new one in. And it's going to go in like this. Just make sure it's fully inserted. Then take the sensor and we're going to insert it into the grommet. There we go. May have to rotate it a little bit to get it fully seated. All right, it looks pretty good. It's all even around the edges. At this point, we can add the fluid back to the tank. I recommend using new fluid because you don't know the condition of the old fluid. Even though mine was clear, yours may have some rust in it, so it's better to play it safe and fill it with brand new washer fluid. On the right side of the windshield, we have the cover for the washer fluid reservoir. I'm going to pop that off and out of the way. I'm going to use a funnel to help fill this up so I don't get spillage. And then slowly pour in the washer fluid. You don't want to overflow. At this point, I put about a third of the container inside. I'm now going to go down below and make sure that there's no leaking at the site of the sensor. Everything is looking dry. So far, so good. I'm now about halfway done with the bottle. If I remember correctly, the last time I did it, it used almost the full gallon. So I used about more than 3/4 of the gallon, and I guess there was already some in there. So yeah, expect about this much of the container to be inserted into the tank. And then when it's full enough, you'll see it right at the edge here. Then we can close up the lid and we are good to go. And as you can see, everything is perfectly dry on the outside of the tank. I think it's good now to do a quick test. Go inside the driver's door, start up the car, and we should see the error for the wiper fluid should be gone now. So let's go do that. Let's see. We are starting the car up. All right, so no warning for the windshield wiper fluid. That's good news. That means the sensor is now working. Now I can go back outside and close everything up and lower the car, and I'll be done. Okay, I am now done with the project. So today I replaced the faulty sensor that is in the windshield washer fluid tank. This is a common issue, and most likely every Ocean will see this eventually. You'll get a warning on the driver's screen saying your wiper fluid is low or out. And if you know that you do have wiper fluid, it's definitely the sensor issue. So I recommend doing this as soon as you can. So I have the links in the video description for the parts that you need for this project. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.